What's going on, guys? Comics Kid 2099 here. I am here to examine another issue of the X-Men. Today, I will be examining X-Men issue 13 with the story by Stan Lee, the layouts by Jack Kirby, the penciling by Jay Gavin, the inking by Joe Sinnott, and the lettering by Sam Rosen. This issue picks up where the previous issue left off, where the Juggernaut has invaded the X-Mansion and he intends to kill his stepbrother, Professor Charles Xavier. So this issue has the X-Men trying to hold back the Juggernaut to the best of their abilities, but as the very famous phrase goes, nothing can stop the Juggernaut, and so basically they're just able to slow him down. There's various ways that they try and do that. Cyclops blasts a very deep hole in the floor that goes down like half a mile or something. It goes really far down. The Juggernaut falls down that hole, but then he's able to climb back up. At one point, Beast is able to lure the Juggernaut into the danger room, but then he gets injured trying to keep Juggernaut busy with all of the obstacles in the danger room. Professor X, he goes into a room and puts on the Minto helmet, which is very similar to what Cerebro is in the movies. In these early Silver Age comics, Cerebro is basically just a tracking device that anyone can use. But this Minto helmet, Professor X says that it will increase his mutant powers, increase his telepathy, so that he will be strong enough to defeat the Juggernaut. But as we found out in the previous issue, Juggernaut has some kind of mental defense that keeps Professor X from getting in his head. And this issue, Juggernaut is stupid enough to tell the X-Men that it is his helmet that is keeping Professor X out of his head. So eventually, Professor X is able to convince the Human Torch of the Fantastic Four to come and help them defeat the Juggernaut. Although Human Torch does come, he's basically useless. He doesn't really do anything worthwhile here because it was Beast who actually loosened Juggernaut's helmet, and then it was Angel who comes in and takes the helmet off of Juggernaut. And then Professor X is able to incapacitate Juggernaut, and then the day is saved thanks to the Powerpuff Girls. So I was under the impression, I had read this issue a very long time ago, and I was under the impression that it was the Human Torch who had melted the connecting stuff that kept the helmet on Juggernaut's armor, and I thought that he was indispensable in this issue, and that was why Professor X called him here. But really, all Human Torch does is distract the Juggernaut so that Angel can come in and grab the helmet. There was really no need to have the Human Torch here at all, and then it's really weird, after they defeat the Juggernaut, Professor X wipes Human Torch's mind and makes him forget that he even came and helped them. I don't know why. At this point, the X-Men are not a secret. The Avengers know about them. When Human Torch first gets this message, he even says, "Oh, it's the leader of the X-Men trying to contact me." And at this point, Professor X is trying to keep his own involvement with the X-Men a secret. If you'll remember, in a couple of issues ago, when the Stranger kidnapped Magneto and Toad, when the police came, Professor X did not want them to know that he was allied with the X-Men. So it's weird that in these early issues, they're kind of playing it fast and loose. Human Torch seems to know, but then the rest of the general public does not know. But then after he helps defeat the Juggernaut, Professor X wipes his mind and sends him on his way. So you can kind of understand why some of the other superheroes of the Marvel Universe don't really trust the X-Men later on, like around the time of Secret Wars, when pretty much all of the superheroes on Battleworld don't really trust the X-Men. You can kind of see why whenever Professor X treats the Human Torch this way. But anyway, Human Torch really did not need to be here, but this is one of the, I believe, the second time in this series that somebody else in the Marvel Universe interacts with the X-Men. We've seen other team-up issues in other series before. In Tales of Suspense, the Angel met Iron Man, but that's not in this series. We also get to see the Team Brigade, Rick Jones's group of friends who helped form the Avengers. We also get to see Matt Murdock in court, and he hears this message, and it's really weird how Professor X is basically just going all over the city telepathically, trying to find somebody to help him defeat the Juggernaut, but it's kind of inconsistent where his telepathic messages go. At one point, we see an airplane, and apparently both of the pilots on the plane are hearing Professor X telepathically communicate with him, and then in a courtroom, Matt Murdock is the only one who hears this message, and it's weird. It says that he has heightened senses, so he hears the message. That's not how telepathy works. You could have the best or worst senses in the world, and you would still be able to hear a telepathic message. But then finally, it's the Human Torch who gets a message and decides to go and help the X-Men, even though he says, well, this could be a trap set down by the Wizard or Doctor Doom, but that's okay. I'll go check it out anyway. So Human Torch still a little bit scatterbrained, not really thinking before he jumps into action, but that's consistent with his character anyway. And other than that, there's not a whole lot that goes on here. We don't get any development of the love triangle between Angel, Scott, Jean, and I guess a love rhombus if you count Professor X from that one issue. No development there. We do get Jean Grey kind of contemplating about how powerful Professor X is. She says to other people he's just a normal guy in a wheelchair, but he is very powerful, as she realizes in this issue. Also, I am very curious. In the previous issue, Professor X says that after Sidorak or Sidorak, the god demon who gave the Juggernaut his powers, after he was driven off of Earth, that is when his gem appeared on Earth, and that is how Kane got the powers of the Juggernaut during the Korean War, which, again, they reference the Korean War by name. They don't just say it was during wartime when Professor X and Kane Marco were fighting overseas, and then Kane got the powers of the Juggernaut. They specifically say the Korean War. But anyway, we are told that Sidorak was driven off of Earth, and I'm very curious who it was who drove Sidorak off of Earth. I have two theories here. Number one, it was the Sorcerer Supreme of whatever era that was, long before Doctor Strange became the Sorcerer Supreme. It was that Sorcerer Supreme, which makes sense because Sidorak is a mystical threat and is a demon or god of some kind, so that is one of the only people who should be able to defeat Sidorak. And two, it was somebody with telepathic powers. Why on earth would Sidorak imbue on the Juggernaut a telepathic defense against someone with telepathy unless he had already dealt with somebody who was able to defeat him telepathically? Now, maybe it was a team-up, I don't know, because someone with telepathic powers, they might be able to incapacitate Sidorak, but they wouldn't be able to drive him off of Earth. So maybe it was a team-up where somebody who had telepathic powers was teaming up with the Sorcerer Supreme, who knows. But anyway, I do find it very interesting that Sidorak gave Juggernaut this telepathic defense in his helmet, and then Juggernaut was, of course, an idiot and told everyone, hey, it's the helmet. But anyway, I am a little curious who it was that drove Sidorak off of Earth, and I don't think that that's ever delved into. If it was probably in some issue in the 90s that I haven't read. But anyway, that's about all that I have to say here. Not a whole lot happened here. Like I said in my examination of issue 12, really 12 and 13 are one story just split up in two, and this one kind of has all the action, while the previous issue kind of had all the backstory. So not a whole lot of character stuff going on here. Not really a whole lot of anything, except we do get the Minto helmet introduced here, and I don't believe that that's ever used again or mentioned again. But then whenever we get into the X-Men movies in the 21st century, the Cerebro that we see in those movies is basically a combination of the Cerebro that we get in these issues and the Minto helmet. So that's kind of sort of important here. But anyway, I believe that's all that I have to say. We did get another penciler in this issue. In the previous issue, we had Jack Kirby doing layouts, and we had Alex Toth doing pencils. Now we have Jay Gavin. And I have not heard of Jay Gavin before. I don't know how active he was in comics at this time, specifically at Marvel, because a lot of times in the early days of Marvel, you hear about the bullpen, and it's like 5 people. I've never heard of Jay Gavin before. I don't know how long he stays on this series, or if we're going to get a new penciler in next issue. I'm not sure, but we do get a new penciler here. What he's doing isn't all that different from what Alex Toth was doing. There's really not much of a difference in their styles. I can't see much of a difference anyway. But that is a new change in the creative team here. So anyway, I believe that we can consider this issue examined. So in the meantime, I'll see you guys in the future. Have a good one.